What is good, my people? We are live back again on the forecast with another live show. My bad. I ain't trying to be on here too late. I ain't mean to come on here too late either. Um, just did a show over on the brother Bakari channel, so I think y'all should check that out. It was a pretty good show, and I know everybody is going crazy over this election, and honestly, I'm glad it's over. And wait for a second, let some people come up in here. And by the way, make sure y'all subscribe to the Forecast Radio 24, the other channel. That's where the videos that you're used to seeing on the forecast, that's where you'll see those videos at. So make sure y'all subscribe to that. And there's gonna be a lot more lives or whatever. I'm gonna come on a lot more. But I'm working a lot extra harder. Editing costs a lot, especially working on this book that I'm working on, and like 600 some years of history in the book is a long time. So you know, I have to work extra harder to do that and to make the money to get it edited and all of that stuff. So but more lives is coming up soon, man. But I appreciate everybody for watching and for coming through, and I appreciate all of y'all support. Now I know most of y'all probably keeping y'all eye on the election to see what's gonna happen, and a lot of people have rumors about what's gonna happen, like something crazy if either side wins. Now, let me start by saying this: I'm not telling you to not vote or to vote. I'm telling you to do what you think you should do. But I really do think we as a people need to start being organized and make moves together if we want to get out of this situation. Because we talk about unity all the time, but if we never practice unity, then the same cycle will repeat over and over and over. So we will have to collectively come together to decide, okay, we're going to hold our vote, we're going to go and vote, or whatever we decide to do. But if there's an issue in your neighborhood, like there's a proposition to fix a pothole on your street or something, I'm not telling you to hold your vote. But I do have an issue with people angry or saying because you don't support Joe Biden that you support Donald Trump. When in reality, only one person is pushing a racist person down your throat. Not everybody believes in talking about the lesser of two evils, right? And people then say, well, if you don't, exercise your right to vote, then you don't deserve to speak on it or have no say on any issues. Well, I kind of think the opposite. If you co-sign into this, because number one, not only are you just giving your vote away, right? You don't even hold them accountable for anything, even though there's nothing to hold them accountable for in the first place, because we don't even think enough of ourselves to make any kind of demand for anything. We just want to be a part of the system. I said earlier, I can't think of a law or a court ruling that overturned the Dred Scott case. And we are willing to give our vote away, but we aren't even willing to ask for somebody to overturn that so that we would be legally considered a person. Because in America, legally, we are technically not considered a person. And that's why every 25 years, they still vote whether you will have the right to vote or not. Because what kind of a citizen do they still have to vote whether they'll protect your right to vote? When they gave white citizens the right to vote, that was it. They don't vote every 25 years if white women can still vote. And, white women are the largest voter bloc, but they can qualify as minority because we let them stay on both sides of the struggle. so they can qualify as minority. And hold on, let me put the number up because I'm not gonna be on here long, so I want y'all to call in. And the number is 804-601-4015. But they don't still vote whether white women should have the right to vote, but they still do that with you. And there's a reason, because technically in America, you aren't considered a person. And we don't even understand the ins and outs of the politics in America. Like, for example, how they ship prisoners to different states so that that state's population would increase so they have more electoral votes. Now, that person who can't vote, right, but they are quote unquote represented, how is that any different from the Three-Fifths Compromise? And we talk about how slavery is still legal in America, right? In the 14th and the 15th Amendment, it clearly says persons, but nothing. They have laws that says you aren't a person. They have that written down, but they never had anything written down that says you actually are a person. But we're still saying, well, we got to get Donald Trump out of office because this country is going crazy. But that's what makes me so angry, because how, the amount of bloodshed, the things that they have done to us for centuries. And we weren't inspired to step up and do something. But Donald Trump is in office, so now all of a sudden it's up to us to save the country. But honestly, if Donald Trump wasn't in office and Hillary Clinton was in office, would people will still be protesting for Breonna Taylor? Because believe me, she probably 9 times out of 10 the same situation would have happened. Because guess what? It's been happening for centuries. But at least with Donald Trump in office, I'm not the only one that's mad anymore. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's politically aware. And now, all of a sudden, racism has the end. And now, all of a sudden, all of these groups is out here protesting against racism. Now, they're only protesting against one part of it, right? They aren't going to be out there protesting against the whole system, because that system is designed to protect them at the end of the day, no matter how liberal you think somebody is. But we are fighting to be a part of something designed to destroy us. And we don't even think enough of ourselves to even ask for anything. And you can tell by the mindset that we have, because people will say, well, even if we did ask for something, all of a sudden it's handouts. But now that the Jewish people are getting reparations from Germany just for COVID, right? The Holocaust, or their Holocaust, was 1940s. It's 2020, 80 years ago. And they're getting reparations from Germany from COVID. Do you hear Jewish people from in Germany or from around the world saying, well, they're just getting handouts? They're just going to waste that money anyway. We are the only group of people who has that mentality. And in reality, we shouldn't even be paying taxes in America, because really we're funding our oppression. We're paying for the police unions and the police that's in our area, right? We're allowing other people to select our leaders, and we're accepting it. And we really think an election with two old racist white dudes is something that we must do for America? Never once asking what America should and has to do for us, because they are going to right its wrongs one way or another. But all of this time, and during like the debate, right? When they talk about race issues, when they talk about specifically black people, because they've been noticing, we saying, no, what are you going to do specifically for black people? Because that has been their counter time after time, but we never are ready for their counter move. But even during the debate, when they talked about it, all they could say was the horrible record that each side has. Right? Donald Trump says, you've been in office for 40 something years, never did anything except for the crime bill that locked up thousands of people. Right? And Joe Biden said, well, you agree with the crime bill and said even more people should be locked up. And they was both right. And this is what we have to pick the lesser of quote unquote two evils when we should be focusing on the greater of two goods. And no, our ancestors did not die for the right to vote. First of all, they were killed while they were minding their own business, doing what they wanted to do. But they didn't die for that. They, if anything, you would have to say they wanted representation. They didn't die just for the choice between what kind of racism they wanted. They wanted their own representation. But first, before we can have representation, we have to be able to be okay with living in a community amongst ourselves, with each other. We have to be all right with holding ourselves down. But instead, we get caught up every 4 years and say, well, we can wait another 4 years for our demand. But it's just important that we get this person or that person in or out of office. Right? When back in 2000, 2004, they were telling us vote or die, vote or die. Right? They lost the election. We didn't die. In 2008, of course, there was Obama. And honestly, I never voted for Obama either time. And I should have the first time just for the culture. Right? I'll say that. But I didn't. But when Obama was asked about reparations and doing stuff for the black community, well, we need to make better schools for all kids. But when they say we need to do this for all, you know that you're still going to be on the bottom of that all. If you raise everybody up, you're still on the bottom. And we're okay with vague promises of trickle down because actually they never really promise us anything until we get actually fed up, until we start making moves and demanding stuff on our own. But we are in a position where we can create whatever it is that we want to create, whatever kind of government, whatever kind of laws, whatever kind of language, religion, whatever that we want to create. We're in a position where we can create it right now. But, we don't have the ability to do that. And this is an election where people are saying, well, if you don't support Joe Biden, who literally said, I know racism exists. He said, I know that the things we did messed them up, but it doesn't matter why they are like they are. I just don't want them around me. I don't want them around my mom or my drug addict son. Meanwhile, his son was the one doing all the stuff that we're getting locked up for. Like, it makes no sense to me. When are we as a people? What's going on? Yeah, definitely. I come on that, brother guy. All you gotta do is just hit me up and remind me. I come on there. But time after time, we repeat the same cycle over and over. And by the way, Anybody could call in, number right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. I'm not gonna be on here too late. I ain't mean to come on here so late, but it is what it is. But we as Black people live in a constant state of fear, right? And when you make decisions out of fear, you get results that are fear based. At some point, we're going to have to dig deep and get up out of this situation on our own. We don't realize that we have pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps time and time and time again. I mean, when has America, when has Europeans ever kept their word? Every single treaty America has signed to this day, they're still going back on that word. Right? They just had protests while Obama was in office about them taking quote unquote native land. And time after time, right, we had the decision, right, during the Revolutionary War. The British came over and offered us freedom. So George Washington had no other choice but to offer us freedom because he was getting his ass kicked. Yeah, I'm not really sure I want to do that, but yeah, I mean, I'll try to find it. But yeah, the crime bill messed us up. But every single president in America, starting from the first, has done the same exact thing. Right? The very first president, he said, "Okay, I'll give you freedom," and that's how some of the northern states got free. But the very next thing he did was pass the Fugitive Slave Act. So now the people who were already free were being kidnapped, especially children. Right? We can go from generation to generation, time after time, and Donald Trump compared himself to Abraham Lincoln. Well, you can't name one slave that Abraham Lincoln ever freed, right? Because his quote unquote Emancipation Proclamation only applied to the states that were in the North that agreed with his terms, and he gave them a pass. He said they didn't have to release their slaves, only the states that refused and receded from the Union, but he had no authority over them. And we don't realize that every time that we've made a decision as a collective to side with one side or the other, that side has won. But, that has always been the question for America. What are we going to do with the Negroes? The Negro question, right? And good old Joe Biden, of course, was against integration. But, ultimately, we as a people should have been against integration because it hurt us. But we don't understand how every single move that they make is designed to keep us in the position that we're in. And now we are 60 years after LBJ said, "I'll have those niggas voting Democrat." And here we are. He wasn't lying. But as a people, we have to stop being children politically because that's what we have been. And as long as we're children, they're going to continue to okay that right to vote because it was George Bush, George Bush Jr., a Republican president, that okayed your right to vote for another 25 years. And Obama and Joe Biden, right? They didn't take that out of the law and say, okay, well, permanently you have the right to vote. They didn't change that. The one thing they did was reduce the crack crack sentencing gap from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1. But neither of these people are our friends because we have no friends. And if we can't be friends with ourselves, then we are going to remain in this position. But right now, we let our enemies dictate everything. And the issue is, we shouldn't even be just mad about the police brutality. That's just one of the roots of the problem. Well, one of the symptoms of the problem. We should be mad that they control the world's resources. We should be mad that they can tell us how and when to grow our food. We should be mad that we're subject to somebody else's rules, laws, and regulations. And not only that, we're subject to somebody who makes us having the skin color that we have illegal. You know, a brother riding his bike down the street liable to get stopped, shot, and killed because they've always done that to separate our warrior class and to keep us uneducated. But we also have to remember we are it has been illegal for us to read longer than it's been legal for us to go to public school in America because they know that controlling your mind, controlling the images you see, and they can control you. It's easier to make a slave who out of somebody who never knew freedom. Right? And I just watched that movie, Queen and Slim. And it just came on TV. And, I woke up and it was on TV and I watched it. And it's so many subliminal messages in that movie, right? From how it was a black guy who turned them in to how them practicing self-defense because that's really all they did. The man protected a woman as we supposed to, and it ended up as a death sentence. And it only shows how in America you're not a criminal, like the brother in the movie was not a criminal. But that's all America can portray us as. But we don't control our own narrative. We don't control our own shows. We don't control our own minds. We send our kids to school to learn that Christopher Columbus discovered America, and we don't understand how we don't understand American politics. We don't understand how to build wealth, how to build capital. But that knowledge has been stripped from us on purpose for a reason. And again, we are the only group who have actually lifted ourselves up by our bootstraps because we've been excluded from every single program that they have from the beginning to the end. Yet we were able to build our own communities because we understood they hated us so much they didn't want us to even spend our money in their stores. But now we're forcing them to take our money even if they hate us. But I personally would rather somebody hate me so I don't spend my money in that store. But if we really want to vote for something, right? And I say it all the time, we can get a group of successful black business people and hold our own election, right? Go through whatever channels we have to do, nominate the most successful black business people and put them in charge of funding and helping grow black businesses. And we can all contribute to it, whether it be $1, 100, or a million. And in turn, they'll put black stores into black community. But we first have to start getting organized in everything, right? As a group, there's no reason why if it's a shop in our store owned by somebody outside of our community, We can't go up to them and say, you got 48 hours to leave, or nobody's going to come in your shop anymore. You just going to go out of business. If not, you can handle it any other way you want to. But that takes organization. That takes us being on code again. But we have to realize that we're not so far on from being on code. Right. And this has happened, time and time again, but we've always been attacked. But there's a reason why black leaders are killed, but they're not only killed, they're removed from history so that nobody gets any crazy ideas of ever rising up against this system. And as long as we arguing with each other, breaking up our families over, which racist white man we think should run America, right? They know that we are divided and conquered. And it's not only to divide and conquer us, it's to divide and conquer their own, because it's not like they lied, like they tell their own the truth, right? Those poor white people are stuck on the Republican plantation the same way they claim that black people are stuck on the Democratic plantation. They do the same thing to all of us. But, we have to learn from history. And, people always say, well, they killed our ancestors. And I talked about one brother earlier. The brother back in 1961, the brother Herbert Lee, right? It was a number of people being murdered, back then. But it wasn't just because of that. It wasn't just because they wanted the right to vote. Of course, whites wanted to stop them from voting, right? But they would kill you if you looked them in the eyes. God forbid if you looked in the direction of a white woman. Those people were fighting for liberation, not for how much they can control the racism they're in, right? And one of those brothers that say, die for their right to vote. Now, this brother was minding his own business, taking cotton to the cotton gin, just to make some money, right? When literally a Mississippi state representative stopped him and walked up on him with a pistol and shot him in the head, just in cold blood. Now, this, Mississippi state representative claimed self-defense. And, he said they got into an argument over, some debts, and they knew each other and they got into arguments before. But he claimed this brother hit him in the head with a tire iron. But everybody knew he was lying. But of course, they let him off the hook. And, an all white jury said it was justifiable homicide. Now, this brother was leading marches to get the right to vote. But he was killed because he was a black man. Right? There's been people, homes they blew up. But anytime you're talking about anything about freedom, anytime you're talking about anything about knowledge, of course they're going to attack you. Because that's what they do. And that's what we have to understand. We are prisoners of war. And we cannot ever forget that. The moment that we stop fighting is the moment that we lose. But we have never stopped fighting from generation to generation. And hopefully all of those before us that have died for us to be in this position, they speak through me. Right? Ida B. Wells refused to get, and she, before Rosa Parks, they tried to make her move because she was a Negro, but she refused to get up out of her seat. Our ancestors wanted to be treated as people, as humans. But in this country, after hundreds of years, How long is it going to take for us to realize that the system is not designed for us to work that way? White supremacy is defined by black inferiority. They need us to stay in this position. And regardless who is president, we are going to be in this position until we get ourselves out of this position. Because at the end of the day, we are all we got. But that starts with us getting on code with each other. It starts with us learning how to trust each other and have each other's back. And building that family, that community, that unit. Because that's the only way that we will ever get out of this situation. And, I always say, I'm not telling you anything any different than George Washington told America. But that's one American thing that we don't seem to want to pick up. It's the self-defense part. We think that, getting what we deserve is a handout. But we are lost on all the things that they have done to us because they have done unspeakable things. Now, everybody knows about what happened during Reconstruction and how it was, well, it was actually a Democratic president who pulled out Reconstruction, but, it was irrelevant as far as parties back then. But all of those towns that had black representation, right? Because black men had the right to vote since 1865. Black women in America are the last people to have the right to vote. But they didn't go to those towns and say, okay, we're going to vote you out and put our own in. No, they came with pitchforks, they came with guns, and they said, you got till sundown to get out of town. And those that stayed, some fought, some were killed, right? Some left. But we are trying to be diplomatic and democratic with a group of people who have done the worst crimes in history. There has never been laws against people, being able to read and write, about selling children into slavery. And this is a country that had 8 or 9 slave owning presidents, a couple while in office. A country that puts Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. Right? And a lot of people say, he went after the Indians, but a lot of those were free black people because back then, before they used to go north, they used to go south to Florida for freedom. And that's one of the main reasons why Andrew Jackson wanted to take Florida. They knew that was a Negro war. And they put their face on the $20 bill, and we fight each other for that. While they come in and take the natural resources and give us a piece of paper. Real wealth is actually natural resources. And when you're in control of your own destiny, you won't be worried about somebody else's politics because you're building your own. Right? Other groups aren't gonna vote, as a block unless somebody is offering them something and they don't feel guilty or feel bad about it. But for some reason we feel guilty and we feel bad. We don't even think that we're worth enough to ask for them to overturn Dred Scott case and call us a person. But, we always have felt like we're the ones that has to save the union. and we still have our capes on. But if we put half of that energy into freeing ourselves, we would have been free a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying the enemy will not keep returning and not keep coming back, but we just have to learn how to be prepared to defend what we build. But right now, we have that savior complex going on. We feel like we have to be saved. Yeah, we've already lost. Yeah. Joe Biden, like I said, Joe Biden said, I don't want, he did call us super predators. And Donald Trump back then agreed with him and said, lock more of them up. Right? And the irony is, if you're out here protesting, why are you electing or voting for the very people that you're protesting against? They are the very people trying to, or the very people that we're protesting against, are the very people who put these laws and rules into place. So how can we then turn around and complain about these laws if we voted for them time and time again? Right? If we call Bill Clinton the first black president, and under his watch, way more black people got locked up. And he made his claim to fame going after a black woman and sister soldier who was standing up for black people during the LA riots. And we call him the first black president. But that's because, we're babies politically. But I can bet you when we start waking up politically, we start focusing on representation and not just the right to vote, but representation, putting forth our own candidates or our own agendas, and even getting to the point where we realize we don't even have to be involved in that to build our own communities because we can recycle our dollars. We can build our own schools. We can put our resources together, and that doesn't have anything to do with American politics. But it's going to take for us to be willing to build our own, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to debate about whether somebody deserved to die. I'm not going to debate about whether somebody like Trayvon Martin deserved to be killed, because that's disrespectful to him. If you feel like it was justified, we don't need to be in the same society. We don't need to be living under the same rules. But here we are in this position that we're in. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna be on here too much longer. I'm about to wrap it up soon. I'm pretty sure most of y'all watching. What's going on, brother Bakari? Pretty sure most of y'all watching election coverage or whatever. But at the end of the day, until we get our minds focused and we are on code, and on code is protecting each other no matter what, not getting divided over which racist white man becomes a president of America when neither of them promised you a thing. But being on code, and when we can take a lesson from them, like all of those videos with all of the white women wilding out, right? You see, as soon as somebody, especially if it's a black man or a black person, come over there and try to check them, all of a sudden there's a crowd that forms around them to protect them, to make sure that white woman is gonna be okay. It don't matter if she got caught stealing, don't matter if she hit somebody with her car, they gonna make sure that she's okay. That's called being on code. Or, when a cop come into our community, all he gotta do is go get on his radio and 10 other armed cops is going to show up and make sure he can finish violating somebody's rights in front of everybody. That's called being on code. But us standing around just recording it, saying, man, that's messed up, but not having the courage to stop it, that is not being on code. And really, that's not American. If you want to be American, American is self-defense. And we cannot be afraid, because no matter what they do, they cannot stop the rise of the Black Messiah, because we are all the Black Messiah. What's going on, Flame Nocturnal? The Black Messiah is Black unity. But as long as they can keep us divided and conquered, they are winning. But the moment that we realize the power that we actually have, then there's nothing they can do to stop us. And anybody want to call in, the number is right there on the screen. I'm gonna give it, a few more minutes, give y'all a chance to call in. Is 804-601-4015. And make sure y'all subscribe to the backup channel, the Forecast Radio 24. That's where the videos you used to will be on there. I'm trying to do more lives the more I can, but it costs a lot of money to get this book edited. So, I've been trying to work hard and do all of this other stuff, but I'm definitely coming back. But, after the night, this election is over and we'll see what happens. But of course, I can tell you that we'll be in the same position that we are in tonight. We'll be in that position tomorrow. And we'll be in that position 100 years from now until we wake up. But, there is too much of a divide. And propaganda affects the people's minds heavily. That's why it's a strategy in war. And, we don't think that we are enough, and we can forgive everybody so easily, but we cannot forgive our own. But that's because we are looking through the lens of white supremacy. When they talk about American issues, they ain't talking about you. You are one of America's issues. But it is what it is, man. But I appreciate y'all coming on, man. I'm gonna have to come back a little bit earlier. But I appreciate all of y'all for coming through, showing me love, man. Much respect to all of y'all. Man, no matter what happened tonight, man, y'all be safe. Because, these people are strapped up and they're ready for war. And we should obviously know that, but by now, because it's been 400 years of us constantly getting attacked, right? But at some point, we're going to have to start standing up and doing what we have to do and fighting back. Because, I'm not telling you anything different than George Washington told America, or Patrick Henry. He said, give me liberty or give me death. But if I say it, that's a terroristic threat. No, I'm telling you American history. And I'm telling you right now, America spends more on defense than anybody else. But it's time for us to start making decisions about what we do with our own lives, because we've had enough casualties. The point is to not continue to take casualties. And we shouldn't just be mad about police brutality. We should be mad that they they control our food, they control every source of life. But it is what it is, man. Like I said, man, I appreciate all of y'all for coming through, man. Much love. There's gonna be a new video soon coming up on the Forecast Radio 24. So make sure y'all subscribe. And there will be another video. I will be back on another live, probably tomorrow, after everything happens. So make sure y'all stay tuned to that. I'm gonna try to have some guests on So, you know, I'm gonna have shows like I used to, but as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.